go ahead and get started. Since it's 8:30. We're going to call the meeting to order then. It's 8:32, I guess. First thing we're going to do is review the minutes of the last meeting, and which I've looked at previous. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Okay.
I'll make a motion.
You'll make the motion.
Right.
Second. It's been motion second and approve the minutes. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed. Minutes are approved. Okay, several things on the agenda. Jessica, I'm going to let you talk about most of these. So we'll talk with the disinfectant byproducts.
Yes. Wanted to kind of just bring the committee up to date on where we are. Stage 2 disinfectant byproduct rules went into effect, I guess, 1 year ago, this coming November, here next month, where not only change things up a little bit on how you do your rolling averages at different sites throughout your water system, but probably the most significant change that occurred was now the districts are having to sample, which in the past that really wasn't the case. And they're being accountable for those disinfectant byproducts at their worst points in their system. And what we found throughout this year, February we had good numbers, but in May, as a surprise to us and folks, we were out. We were out at the plant, and therefore the water we were supplying to the districts was out of compliance for that sampling period in May. We did a lot of the what is on the agenda today stems from that and finding and the work that we have done, investigative work to try to figure out the root cause. We essentially did some sampling throughout different points in our treatment plant to figure out at what point in the process they were forming, and we brought in our filter expert who helps us. They're basically our supplier for our anthracite material. They helped us design the filters and so forth. They did a full filter evaluation, and it was determined that we were finding our numbers were growing through the filter. So we, again, kind of process of elimination, determined that the filters were keeping too many organics in them, and when we were cleaning them, we just weren't getting clean.
The backwash wasn't
The backwash wasn't working. It wasn't sufficient to get a good clean. They were getting clean enough for our turbidities and our primary standards to all look good, but for that secondary standard, we were finding that was the case. Since then, we even asked for help with the Division of Water. We had meetings with them and let them know what was going on. We were very transparent to our districts. We had a meeting with the districts and the Division of Water with Kentucky Rural Water. Their circuit rider, Dale Harris, came in, and we had since had some trainings all together about different things in our distribution system we can also do. Once the number at the plant came up, what can we do in the meantime? So those things seem to be very positive with our districts. And I got Mr. Tom O'Connor with H2O2. He's kind of a academic type from Missouri. He and his father have their own consulting company in Missouri, and they've helped other communities in Missouri kind of work towards the same, come up with some solutions within them, those communities. So he came down, did a day-by-day walkthrough, and kind of came to the same conclusion that we think it's the filters. He's still going to be looking at some other things for us. But we've since cleaned the filters. We did a complete, we went to top of filter chlorination too. That was the other option that the Division of Water suggested that we try to see if that would help. They saw that other water companies, water plants had done that and seen good results. And when we initially did that was prior to the cleaning, we didn't really see much difference, and that's when we determined the problem was through the filter. So
has something changed that has happened over the design's the same?
I think there's kind of two things that happened in May. One, it was, we had a different, our raw water looked a little different. In years past, the lake, Simpsons Lake, had always filled by the end of February. You know, the lake has always been full.
Yeah.
This year, that wasn't the case. It filled much later in the year.
Yeah.
It was full in April.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's a big difference in the amount of organics that from your watershed make its way into the lake. You know, in February, you don't have any leaves and pollen
Yeah.
and stuff. But in April, you do. You
Yeah.
have all that organic material. Our organic removal looked okay, but again, there were just some factors that don't show up as simply from the tests that we have available to us to test for. Second, I think it was a matter of the filters not getting clean, and that's not really realizing just how they weren't getting clean.
Mhm.
In 2010, when we initiated our water treatment plant expansion, where we did a filter, we doubled the size of two
Right.
of our filters. We changed the media, the anthracite material a little bit, did some things that added the clear well, and we added the air scour to the new filters, thinking that as we double that filter size, we'd be sufficient to get the filters clean. We've played around with that backwash procedure, trying to find the optimum process and times to run everything. We thought we were doing a pretty good job. The other filters weren't touched during that, the two older filters. So they still had their same backwash flows and everything. But what we found is that we just don't think the flow that we're getting through the new filters is enough to get a good thorough cleaning consistently.
So the old filters are okay?
Well, they weren't okay either.
Okay,
And I think
so-
it could have been age associated with those.
Okay.
They hadn't really been thoroughly cleaned. I can't remember the exact time.
So the backwash issue with the new filter could have gone all the way back to when we redid them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we think so.
Okay.
So since in cleaning them all, I've got some numbers to kind of show you if you're interested, if you want to get in the weeds a little bit. I won't stay there very long, but if you're wanting to see them,
No, that's
we
okay.
did see significant numbers, improvement at the plant with our H85 byproducts, you know, lowering, cut really in half. We did two filters first. We had our mandatory sampling time in August. The numbers were lower and in compliance. And then we did that with only two filters being thoroughly acid wash cleaned and topped off. Plus we had about a foot media loss too. In us trying to get those filters good and clean, we had a loss of media too. So they weren't quite as deep. They're like a foot shallower. And so we got them all topped off. By September, we did a set of special samples just for our own knowledge. That's not the required timing from the Division of Water. But we took the samples in September after we had done the older two filters. We cleaned those thoroughly and topped them off, and our numbers continued to go down. So now all four filters have been thoroughly cleaned and topped off with the design amount of material in them, and our numbers are looking good.
But we
At the
still
plant.
think we need to do this evaluation
Yes.
for the flow and that's what's in that scope of
Yes.
work.
And that's what.
Did you have that scope of work, Keisha?
What?
Yeah.
That's the,
So that's
May-
what,
I'm sorry.
May I
and,
just
sure, go
add
ahead.
you something. When we give the test for the disinfection byproduct violation, or cause the violation, it's when it goes a rolling average, they take quarterly average, and when it gets over, let's say I think it's 60 parts per billion, then you're in violation of the haloacetic acid, which is just simply a chlorinated acetic acid. So when it triggers, and they say it's carcinogenic over a lifetime, so the EPA's got a lifetime limit with a factor of safety of 2.5. So they're safe, but yet threatening. But we can't afford, from a business point of view, to give our customers New Haven, Bloomfield, North Nelson, and LaRue water that they can't be in. So they've sent letters out to their customers, which is threatening. So that prompts us to trigger this action,
Right.
and we've studied it ever since those filters went in. And we've been troubled by them not appearing to be backwashed like they should be.
Right.
And so I think we've come, like Yogi says, to the fork of the road. So we've waited long enough to where I met with North Nelson Board the other night, and I intend to go see the mayors and the other district from just a business point of view to let them know that we're interested in giving them reliable, safe water.
So with this, I know we've had this problem for some time, we've had the ends, and so we're thinking it leads back to this. This is the root cause of it, is that we're not getting the filters working properly.
Well, if
So-
we're not in
If
compliance
it's not
with
leaving
the
the
plant,
Yeah.
there's no prayer. Now, there's been other times that we have had other issues meeting it at certain places out in the system that
Yeah.
are at the farthest ends. There's not a lot of demand, keeping the water fresh.
Okay.
And we're still doing things operationally to help make those improvements, to keep the water as fresh as possible, reduce the age. It's all about age.
So to make those improvements, you're recommending we employ this engineering firm to do this scope of work?
Yes.
Okay.
We've even gone as far as to drop some of our tanks.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's an aging, so it's more complicated than,
Just
if I may have another
Sure,
30
go ahead.
seconds.
Yes, you may.
It's more complicated because we're in compliance at New Hope, but we're out of compliance on the New Shepherdsville Road, 3 miles from the freshest water we have. So the aged tanks have a lot, when you go through a series of tanks and we have a form of chlorine that comes out as free chlorine gases. And every tank you go through, you lose some. So, make a long story short, it's spotty and sporadic, and it isn't as simple as it's just that filter.
So,
But it is
Yeah.
that filter at times.
right,
Right.
so this is the study of the filter, then there's going to be another discussion of the storage capacity. Are we storing too much water?
Yes.
And it's taking too long to get to the customer, and that's the next
Right, we've already been kind of looking at some of those things, and we'll be asking for some help with some consultants to just kind of look over our shoulder and making sure that we're going through that process and.
So we're going to do this first.
Yes.
Yeah, what do you
First
do with
things
all these
first.
tanks we have? And I hope that if we change this disinfectant that we're going to be talking about, we think,
Yeah,
that it would allow us to keep our tanks full, and then we'll be back in
okay.
overabundance, I'll say, or at least a lot of stored water, which is ideal. But our customers are having trouble with stored water themselves, and none of us like to take tanks out of service. But if it's an age problem, you have to.
Yeah.
So the short of it, I'd say, very simply, on the Lowell Road, we have 1.5 million stored gallons. We have a million across from Barton's new place, the storage, or
With
Van
report.
Richardson building, with 1 million gallon there, and 500,000 at Nazareth in Fairground Villa. And we've lost sales to North Nelson. So, and the industry's demanded to have that stored water, so you have that parameter to meet. But now you don't have the sales that we once had. So it's a vicious cycle. So anyhow, it's time that we take the Louisville Road tank down, or the NAS tank, I call it. See, so, and if that's too much, we'll have to swap them and use the 500,000 and vacate the 1 million.
But
So,
that's all a study that we're going to do after.
well,
we do
that's,
this.
okay, yes, sir, that's coming.
That's coming. We've already implemented some, where it was blatantly obvious that we needed to. We couldn't, we were struggling to meet ourselves in some places, for instance, in Fredericktown. Going through that bottling tank, cooking in the heat, we were struggling to stay compliant. So we've since taken that one offline. We didn't need the stored water.
Yeah.
So in areas where we could, and we still have plenty of stored, we're definitely in compliance with all of our division of water requirements. But
So in a summary, we have to stay in compliance with this enhanced safety rule for chlorine byproducts. They're getting stiffer and stiffer insofar as they're making us go to dead zones in our system and see if there's still chlorine residual, for one. So that's going to be an ongoing concern, and the water's just getting fresher and fresher and better, I guess, is what they're driving us to.
and we're working with the division of water on just that.
Yeah, okay.
The CJ Bailey was here yesterday and just following up on a workshop that we had attended with many other water districts throughout the central Kentucky, and just kind of checking to see what we've been doing. And CJ seemed pleased with the efforts that we've been making and the work that we've been doing.
Okay.
We're certainly trying to be in compliant as much as we can and are taking samples throughout our system. So,
Okay, so that really got us into this second item, which is the GRW
yes,
engineering study. So you guys went out for bids for consultant, and this is going to be your recommendation
Yes.
to
the
the council.
recommendation. Mhm.
And of course, it delineates everything, and it's just all those things you just talked about, with some other things, piping at the clear well and some other things, so,
Correct.
hydraulic study. Okay. So that's going to be coming to the council for recommendation.
Yes,
Okay.
we'd like to add that to the Tuesday's council meeting to recommend
Yeah.
approval for them to start work,
Yeah, okay.
on that
Okay,
design
sounds good.
work.
What's the water district status discussion? What's that?
We've kind of touched base on that a little bit already, but just wanted to let you know, as a result of this disinfectant byproduct stage 2 rule, some of the districts have had to send letters out to their customers.
Oh, this is our wholesale
Yes,
customers.
our wholesale
Oh, yeah.
customers. So Larry did a good job of writing
Yeah.
a nice letter
Okay.
to the districts, and if he wants to touch base on that a little bit, we might have.
As I say, I'm going to follow up seeing them face to face and talk to them as long as it might take them to follow where we're heading.
Yeah,
But we just can't continue to not look for a remedy. I will say this, that if we go to, well, one thing, somebody would say, well, did y'all make a mistake in 2010? Well, there was a mistake made in 2010, but it's by the designer of the filter. And so we've observed it and we've lived with it, and unfortunately, we can't wait any longer
Yeah.
to correct it. And that's one of the messages. But this disinfectant byproduct rule is more pervasive than just that, and it's going to cause us all difficulties. So if we go to this product we're thinking about, that Lowell's using, which is a chloramine,
yeah,
that makes us more compatible in the future, that we could interchange water with Lowell. They're apt to be the better supplier than to the east of us and to the south of us in terms of capacity. So people in New Haven, Bloomfield, Bardstown coming from the west, we could get water over the long haul. And I'm not saying we'd buy water from them routinely, but if you had a break, then we could service each other, meaning those people that are in the middle of us could get water from other, and it's more compatible. So that's one reason that we would think that it'd be to our advantage. And if you recall, they have to dechlorinate if you have fish and some fish tanks. So that's maybe a little downside, but some say that it gives a better taste, that it's not as strong in the chlorine department. One of the downsides is you have to waste water. If you have a dead zone, you have to decant that water because it nitrifies, or you get nitrates in it. And so in some areas, you'll just have to waste water. So again, making it fresher. So we're believe it's in our advantage to go down this road. And again, as Jessica said, we have to get the state's permission to change our process, and I would expect they would see it. In fact, if we were to borrow money, because we're regionalizing, I know we're doing that, then I think we could borrow it. According to the Nelson's Water District guy, Damon Talley, who's an attorney for LaRue and North Nelson and the Kentucky Rural Water Association, who's sitting on all these boards in Frankfurt, he said we could borrow money at 1.75. Well, so that's, I'm not sure we need to borrow the money, but that's just points you in the direction that we're going down the right road. The second is I attended a conference that a couple of councilmen asked to go to. Cities were invited to look about privatizing their system if they're having problems. And there were a lot of little systems in Frankfurt and a city or two that are struggling and just would soon get out of the water business. So we don't have any intention of getting out of the water business, and I think we've got really a good supply of water, and I think we can do it cheaper than to buy it from somebody else. But that's not to say that we don't have a benefit of attaching to where if we were to run short, and that we maybe can share the water in the well of others and of our own. So anyhow, we're pretty confident in the direction we're heading, being the right direction.
Which gets us to this last item of this chloramines.
Yes.
Who's this Tom O'Connor? What's that?
He's with that H2O,
Okay.
O2OC.
Yes. And I would just say to his bona fides, as he's the two men, is chairman of the Civil Engineering Department of the University of Missouri. He's taught people in the state of Missouri, the operators, how to do chloramines.
How to make the
And he's an academic as opposed to a consulting that'll build something. So we think that he'll be more economical and more academically, he doesn't have a mold, it's something he wants to build. So,
So this is, I mean, am I taking this, that there's gonna be a suggestion that we hire this guy to do a study, to do the chloramines?
we've already got it in our budget.
Okay.
And we want that to be like an observer that we're going down the right road, rather than to employ somebody to advise us what to do. We want that to confirm what Jessica and I then believe to be true to help our system, so that there's a confidence level that we're not, we just didn't buy some pitch from the filter salesman, let's say.
Right.
So is that, we have a proposal for that? Is there a proposal, dollar amount?
No, he's working on drafting that. I
The
should
budget
probably-
was 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, the budget was 10. I've got it, he did a preliminary proposal
Mhm.
that had a few more things in it that was around 10,000.
I'll tell you what's gonna help the council, and I'm speaking for me, and Keisha, you may have an opinion on it, is that when we have this, is that one of you write a nice one-page synopsis of why we're looking at going from our current system to this system. We've talked about it, but we've heard before, well, theirs is separate from ours, and that's the way it is. Well, now we're talking about doing the same, just the pros and cons. The
Right.
problem we have with what we have now. and
Well,
why
that's
we wanna do
exactly
it.
what this
Yes.
fellow's gonna write.
Well, okay.
And we will comment on it, but hopefully he can
It'd be
do
nice
a
to
better
get-
job
Yeah,
than I can.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, good. Because that'll help, I think,
Yes.
all of us understand again, why do we want to switch from what we're doing now to what we're doing?
And that's what I've asked Mr. O'Connor to do, to kind of lay out the benefits,
Yeah.
any things we need to be cautious of, but once we
Yeah,
make
yeah.
that change.
You have it all in one spot in writing,
Right.
it'll help to clarify.
I think we can do that.
And then will
I
that,
think we can do
circling back to our first problem of these residuals, does this solve that problem?
It helps with the chlorine residual.
Okay.
Once let me rephrase that.
but
It helps with
don't give me the lecture,
disinfectant
just-
byproducts. Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
it can help with that.
Okay,
Because
so-
it doesn't gas out as easily. It's not
Okay.
as volatile, I guess would be the right word.
Okay.
It tends to hang out in the water.
Okay.
I don't think you have to boost, like we have 2 chlorine boosting stations throughout our distribution system. And anytime you have to boost chlorine again, that's
Yeah.
another opportunity to create a byproduct, because
Right.
you're rechlorinating the water. Again, we must have chlorine in the water to be safe to drink, but in order to have at least a .02 residual everywhere at a minimum. But again, you're kind of constantly working against yourself.
Yeah.
And again, that's why water age is so important. We're really striving to get fresher water, and using a chloramine product is supposed to help where you don't lose that residual as quickly. It stays in the water
And
longer.
if I held a gun to your head and asked you what it would cost to switch to the chloramines for our system, the capital cost,
Well, that's another thing we want the O'Connors to do, is to give us an estimate, but
Right. I don't have a good feel for that.
if I had to just a wild
is
swag,
it closer to 10,000 or a million?
gosh,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
pretty, I'd say that
Okay, so
it might be $1 million
Maybe
question.
$1 million.
Okay,
After all is said and done,
all right.
you know,
Just,
by the time you make improvements to the
Okay.
plant.
And I'm
okay,
certain it'll cost something more to ammonia, you're putting ammonia in with the chlorine. So you put, I think it's 1 part of ammonia to 7 parts chlorine,
Okay.
and it lingers, as she said. So anyhow, I can't explain the chemistry very well, but the short of it lingers, as she said. You don't have to hit it as hard. We even would like to reduce the amount of chlorine we put at the filter and do the chlorination after the filter to keep that down. But the short of it, it's more complicated. It's operational. There's more than one variable.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
kind of tough.
All right.
The engineering group that we're using now is separate from the one that actually, the original design, correct?
Correct.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But all these engineer consultants will go to filter people to get the science. That GRW or Ray Allenberg was the former designer. He used, oh gosh, I forget the name of the filter company, but the American Filter Company, you know, and they come. So I don't think it's that, there's not that many systems to use. So-
Correct. That's also true.
Okay. Okay, let's go on and talk about sewer then.
Okay.
Barton request, that's interesting. Talk about that.
Okay, Barton's has asked to basically discharge to Bardstown without pretreatment. They feel like they're really good at making whiskey and bourbon, and they are not in the wastewater treatment business, and they would like to kind of get out from underneath that, and they have hired an engineering consultant to look at alternatives within their system and to approach us about is that even a feasibility, and, you know, what would need to happen in order, you know, financially for them, and you know, how would that work, and is it even a possibility? So in backing up and asking that, with that question being asked of us, we have since asked our consultants, All Environmental, and the folks who helped design the Lower Beach Fork Jerry Riley treatment plant to kind of look at that, which is, I think, Strand is the guys who kind of helps design that plant for us. So we're kind of looking at doing a good gut check of what our available capacities for varying parameters, BOD, TSS, and all those things are at our facilities.
10,000 gallons of whiskey.
MASH.
Well, they're looking at it, that's all I'm saying.
What's that costing us to have them look at it?
We are already looking at what our available capacity is. That's something we need to be doing periodically anyways,
Okay.
just as new industry comes. How much
Okay.
more available BOD loading can we handle, you know, just tweaking it, setting our limits. So that's something we were already kind of in the process of doing.
We're doing it per diem.
Yeah, but per
To
diem,
answer your question,
Mm-hmm.
we've been asked to do something. To back up just a little bit, the reason what prompted this are the odor complaints in Bardstown.
Sure.
So,
Imagine.
to fundamentally answer the question is, both Barton's and Heaven Hill, when they came on, we required them to pre-treat. To allow them not to pre-treat would be to take on and perhaps shift the problem somewhere else. So the question is, we've asked them, they've hired engineers to assist us in understanding, and we need backup engineers to double check their request. But would we entertain for a rate to treat their system for them? Whether it's on their site or on another site, in other words, all the alternatives are open for discussion. But our point to them would be, what can you do to improve? And they are asking us, well, would you consider treating, and we'll pay the cost of what that is. So we haven't even heard that. So we say, well, we're open to dialogue.
Right, to see what you come up with, if it would be even remotely feasible, if we can even attempt to handle
Yeah,
it.
as long as we assume the worst, so a valve sticks open on an alcohol tank, and
Absolutely.
that's happened.
Sure. But before going down that road, but we must remember that there are other distilleries that are being built. And may they ask for the same consideration. And I think the one now that's being built out on Philly at Lane is already building its own pre-treatment, so.
Or, I guess they'd have to.
No,
not exactly.
No?
Not-
They are claiming, they're so small, they're claiming they can get rid of all their
Well, that's what I was told, let's put it that way.
slop, or
Yeah.
they can get all of the unused
Yeah.
slop hauled locally. And so they haven't gone pre-treatment.
Okay.
So,
but they also don't have a pipe discharging to us from any of their bottling or distilling process. It's just their bathrooms at this point.
When we had the
So,
grand
maybe-
opening out there, that was one of my main questions, and they said, yeah, we're gonna pre-treat on site, we're doing that, so maybe not now.
And-
They're sending it to
well, their
waste tanks.
pre-treatment system
Yeah,
is
if
to haul
if there's
off.
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
The pre-treatment, yeah, the
But,
pre-treatment
but
system is not
anyway, it's just, you know,
discharging,
I had some experience there being when we, at Claremont, when we hooked onto the sewer system at Shepherdsville. I did not believe, I didn't believe that they would actually do it, which they did. And, you know, whatever goes down that line, here it comes. It's not treated, you don't know how much it is, and so.
Well, one of the things we'll do, Fred, is that we'll go look at Shepherdsville and see what kind of luck they're having.
Yeah.
Yep,
So,
we're gonna talk to them.
they've talked about, they have some unique or new treatment method that we're not expert in either, but we have our doubts like you do, because we've dealt with it.
Experience.
And I'm of the personal opinion that if they added more lagoons and more air and keep it aerobic, we're better off.
Yeah.
And leaving things as far as they are away, if they keep that air up to 1 part per million, then I think we're good where we are. If we don't do that, and as you say, and it slugs us, then we're gonna get an odor somewhere.
Yeah.
So, if there's science that can solve this problem, we're open to hear it.
Okay. All right, so that's still kind of in the discussion
It's, yeah, it's in the
stage.
discussion stage.
Okay. All right,
We just wanted to make you aware that
thank you.
that's been,
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Anything else we need to discuss? Anybody else have any other questions, comments?
I will say this, on the back burner, they've asked us to consider selling them raw water at Barton's.
Yeah,
And we haven't dealt with that. Would like to focus on the sewer odor first.
okay.
And we would be open to sharing the water at a wholesale cost. I'm not sure that if there comes a time where we need it worse than they do, how you would deal with that. So that's, it's unsettled in our mind where we're not ready even to recommend pursuing that.
And then I see we're doing the work down on the dam. I know it's not on the agenda, but that's ongoing. Looks like that's,
I think it's completed, isn't it?
is it good?
Well, we hope it's completed. We hope that we would let it top and see how it works.
Okay.
And then maybe next year we go back in and finish it up. We've done 90, hopefully 100% of the work. There's a little bit of dressing, but we've spent maybe what, Ben? Is it 40 to 50,000?
And we got that bank stabilized, that's all.
Yeah, if you look to the left where the bank washed out,
Yeah.
and I think Ben and his crew done an
Yeah.
excellent job, and they've got that reinforced there where it won't wash out.
Yeah, good.
yeah, they've saved us a lot of money.
They saved the city a lot of money.
Good, like,
Well, thank Ben for having
Yeah.
that
Kudos
construction
to,
expertise to execute that.
kudos to Ben and his crew. I think everybody should applaud that.
Okay.
Yes.
Long time
Anything
coming.
else? Okay. If there's no objection, I'll adopt the unanimous motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks.